Awesome. All right. So, welcome again. I know we'll kind of have people coming in and out here and there, but I'm Rebecca Schutte. I'm the Senior Director of Institutional Relations here at Phi Kappa Phi. I started in mid-September, so it's been a great first couple of months, and it's just great to continue to get to really interface with a lot of you virtually and even some in person. I just wanted to take the opportunity just to introduce the Phi Kappa Phi team that's on. So within our kind of institutional chapter relations team, we have Chip White. If you want to give a little wave, okay.
Good morning, everybody.
We have Cami Varnado. She'll give a little wave.
Hi, good morning.
And then we have our newest member who joined us earlier this month, Chloe Beaver. If you want to give a little
Morning.
wave. And then we have Karen Styron, who's here from our finance team.
Morning.
A little wave, and I think that is it in terms, did I miss anybody? All right.
Brad is on the call, I believe.
Oh, Brad did join us. Okay, Brad Jewell, our CFO, wants to give a little wave.
Morning.
Great. And I know there are a lot of you, so we won't make you all go through and introduce yourself, but I did want you to just kind of be able to put some names with faces with among the national team. So please feel free if you want to kind of raise your hand, type a question in a chat. We'll kind of pause at the end of each section. Just feel free to ask any questions, and we can always follow up if it's kind of a specific question for your institution. We can always follow up, set up a Zoom for next week. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just launch into kind of chapter management 101. So our institution, we have a set of national bylaws, and then each chapter has their own set of bylaws. So each chapter is a separate 501c3, and you can find our bylaws for the society and some proposed sample chapter bylaws on our website. And so we're actually in the process of revising our chapter bylaws because there were some changes made to the national bylaws in November. So any changes are due by March the 4th. If you find them on the website, you'll basically discover we've kind of incorporated all of those changes at the national level, but we do realize you may have some chapter specific things you want to add in. So what we're kind of saying is if we don't hear from you and you're good with what's available, that'll just kind of go online for you starting on March 5th. But if you do want to submit any changes, they're welcome. Just please do that by March 4th. And then this is just a kind of an overview of what each chapter at the institution really needs to do. One is to recognize outstanding academic achievement, and this is through inviting students and faculty, staff, and alumni to membership. To hold at least one initiation ceremony annually. We now have the national virtual ceremony as well, if it's too kind of onerous to set one up for your own chapter. This can be in the spring or in the fall, whatever is best for your chapter committee. Sponsor programs on your campus that support and recognize scholarship and service. We ask that you send a delegate to conventions and participate in trainings like this and workshops that we have throughout the year. And that you also kind of promote the awards and fellowships and programs that we have available for members. So help really publicize and drum up applications on your campus. So chapter officers, there are a whole slate of different types of chapter officers we have. These are sort of the core 5 that make up the executive committee. I will say that in our bylaws, technically every chapter is supposed to have all 5. We fully realize that this is not necessarily the case at all institutions. We see anywhere from 1 to 12. So this is just sort of the core group here. Each chapter will have a super admin that can go in and update your officer roster. We try to make a big push once a year, kind of in August, to get that in. But you can always have your super admin make changes, or you can even just contact us. It's very easy for us just to update things in the system. And so I'm going to hand it over to Chip for the next section. But if anybody has any questions, we'll continue to monitor the chat, or feel free to just raise your hand. All right, over to you, Chip.
All right, thank you, Rebecca, and greetings from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where we just had one was most likely a lifetime snow event this week. And it changed everything here in Louisiana, as you can probably imagine. So, but we are well on our way to our normal January temperatures. So greetings, and I hope you find this training helpful today. Okay, Rebecca, next slide, please. So we're going to talk a little bit about initiation. We broke it down into 5 steps here. I'm going to focus on step 2, which is submitting your initiation information. So if you're a returning officer, this process will work very similarly to how it has in the past, right? So you used to log into the chapter dashboard and go through the OEP process. Well, that is essentially still in place, right? The form is basically the same, but we have a new chapter portal. So we're going to discuss that a little bit more in depth later in this training. And we are offering trainings in February, 3 of them, in fact, on navigating the new chapter portal. But again, submitting your initiation information is essentially the same as it was last year. We're just in a new portal. I'll also draw your attention to step 4 there, where it mentions FERPA guidelines. So this has been, if you've been following our communications, this has been a big focus for us, is to really get 100% in compliance with all FERPA guidelines. And we've researched this for each institution where we have chapters, and we've divided into buckets, and we will go into that a little bit later as well. So, but our entire invitation process was built around these guidelines just to make sure that we were in compliance. So, and then you'll see the invitations going out for step 5. Those of you who are returning officers, right, this was always done at the chapter level, but this year, we can send invitations on your behalf as long as you meet the FERPA guidelines. Again, we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But this is a great, great asset for you, a time saver. We have a beautiful email invitation with 5 reminders. So we're going to get into that a little bit later. But if you haven't heard about that yet, this is a brand new thing that we're offering. And so far, it's working beautifully. So next slide, please. So we are still in favor of you holding an in-person ceremony. I mean, that is really the most beautiful thing, right, about Phi Kappa Phi, is when you can really connect in person, and you have that event on campus, and maybe it has a reception or a speaker and that type of thing. So we're really still advocating for that. We understand that, you know, time might be limited. You might not quite have all of the officer power to plan an in-person ceremony, so there are some options. Draw your attention to number 3 there, the National Induction Ceremony, virtual National Induction Ceremony. So we held our first one in December of last year. It worked extremely well. We're going to offer another one again on May 18th, and this is open to all chapters, okay? So again, we are still advocating and hopeful that you will plan an in-person event, but if not, let's talk about how the National Induction Ceremony can help you and your chapter. Also a note there about inviting campus leadership. So particularly important if you can get presidents, provosts, deans to attend the ceremony, really helps increase the support for the chapter and really increases the visibility of the chapter in that way. And then you see a couple of other things that are optional. in terms of like our graduate regalia and things like that. We'll talk a little bit more about that later as well. Next slide, please. So a couple notes about fees. So your first thing before you fill out your chapter information online is to decide a chapter initiation fee. So here are the things to know. That national fee is $85, and you can see how it's broken down there. One of the changes this year is that we are direct mailing certificate and pin to each new initiate, okay? So this is different, right, than last year, because we would try to coordinate the shipment of certificates to the chapter to hand out at the ceremony. So now when a student registers and signs up and becomes a member of Phi Kappa Phi, that certificate and pin is mailed directly to them. So that's where that $8 shipping fee comes in. And then you'll see there'll be a spot when you submit your initiation information to talk about the number of guests that you would like if you're going to have an in-person ceremony, and how much you would charge guests in that case. All right, next slide, please. We're still offering discount codes. If I remember correctly, we are now calling them coupon codes. Is that correct? Everyone just, okay, great. So this is, if you know students who might be struggling a bit financially, this is a way, but they really want to become a member of Phi Kappa Phi. This is a great way to do it. So we can create those in any dollar amount, and we can, deal with this on a case-by-case basis. We would give the student that code, and then when they check out at the end of the join process, they can use that, and it would take that specific amount off of their bill. Now, do note that the chapter is billed for each time the code is used. But we want you to know that is available this year. It was something we have done in the past, and it has been very, very helpful, I think. Okay, next slide, please. So here's our recognition items, right? So we have traditional medallions and stoles and things of that nature. If you're a new Phi Kappa Phi officer, we have an online store. So you can just search it, Phi Kappa Phi store. It is separate from us, and you can go in there and order regalia, like if you wanted to include that, right? In terms of your initiation planning, a lot of chapters do that. They will order medallions in advance and include those and hand those out at the ceremony, for example. And I believe the next slide talks about our sale. Yes, so we're about to offer a sale, and you can see how the regular prices for our stoles, medallions, and cords, and then the sale that we offer starting on February the 1st, right? And it's easy to find, so just go to the online store. There's a tab that says chapters, and then go to graduation regalia, and all of that will come up, all the items, and then you can buy those and have those shipped to the chapter. Just a note, just make sure you're timing it correctly if you want to order those before your in-person ceremony. Okay, next slide, please. Great, Rebecca, I believe this is back to you. Hang on, you're on mute, Rebecca.
Thank you. Sorry, you would think I would have learned by now.
No problem.
All right, so once you're ready to rock and roll, get going, the first step is going to be to open enrollment. So this is basically, a different platform than we had last spring, but it's a lot better because it's just going to be easier in the long run. So basically you log on, you're going to submit your information about your initiation date, where you're going to have it, fees, all of that stuff. And then for when FERPA allows it, students are going to be able to just go in, register, pay directly. Any chapter fees will be kind of sent on to the chapter itself. And also any other like faculty, staff, or alumni that are invited are going to be able to use this to register as well. So once you submit that OEP, someone from our staff. Most likely it will be Cami. It may be Chloe if we're really busy. If you're in a FERPA division that needs an access code, that will be created and shared with you. And then again, if your FERPA status permits, we'll provide an Excel template that you can share with the registrar. And I did just want to mention that hopefully you all received, I think they were scheduled to go out right before this call. We had an email for each chapter officer kind of by your own FERPA status, step by step, even more detailed in this instructions. So please take a look at that. And, you know, any questions you have, we're happy to kind of work with you on that. Karen will give a lot more information on FERPA, but the team spent a lot of time kind of researching where the university stands. So depending on your different group, it kind of dictates the level of student data that can be shared or in some cases not shared. So we'll get into that a little bit more. And I'm going to hand it back over to Chip.
Perfect, thank you. Good, all right, let's talk about those eligible students. So first slide, please. Great, so this is the current eligibility, right? So very current as of today. And if you've been following over the last couple of months, there were some changes to the eligibility, and I just wanted to note those. The first was at the beginning of the fall, any graduate student with a 3.85 GPA or higher were eligible for membership. Okay, so that stayed in place throughout the fall semester. That is no longer part of the eligibility. So you can see there that it is now just the class rank, right? The 10%, top 10% of the class, regardless of GPA. So I just wanted to make sure to note that the juniors and seniors, those of you who are familiar with requesting that information, will recognize those percentages: 7.5% of juniors and top 10% of the seniors. Just a note about this before we move on, we would love for you to drill down as far as possible at your institution. So if it's a larger school, perhaps going by colleges, but if it's even possible to go further than that, just so we make the invitation process as equitable as possible. Sometimes I know it's only possible to do that at the institution level, but if you can, drilling down as deep as possible to get those class ranks is ideal. Okay, next slide, please. This is new this year. It's the recommendation pathway. Okay, so this is open to any faculty member or administrator who would like to recommend someone who perhaps does not meet the eligibility specifically, but thinks would be a great addition to the Phi Kappa Phi community. And so that person can write to the chapter's executive committee and essentially make a case for that student to become a member. And then it is up to the executive committee at the chapter to decide if that person will receive an invitation or not. So that does not have to come to us in the national office. That can be taken care of at the chapter level. Okay, next slide, please. And this is a note, in all of our trainings, we do like to mention this because we talk a lot about inviting students, right? I mean, obviously that's the main focus, but we also want to say that it is important to invite faculty, right? Administration, staff, alumni, community leaders. These people can really benefit a lot from the membership, but they can also, they're your potential new chapter officers for the future, right? So this is a great way to keep that pipeline alive, is to really invite those faculty and staff to membership every time you open enrollment. So just keep that in mind. Okay, next slide, please. All right, great. Rebecca, I think it's back to you.
All right, I'm going to unmute myself this time. So next step is that invitations go out. So once you get that list from the registrar, and again, read your FERPA email, your specific email, but basically what will happen is you're going to upload the template for us, if possible, or you may have to ask your registrar to go ahead and invite the students if we're not allowed to access that data. And so one thing just to flag is that when your registrar is pulling a list, any faculty you may want to include or support staff or alumni, their names aren't automatically going to be on that. So just make sure you add those before you upload. And then, the national office is going to send out emails and printed invitations based on the chapter's FERPA guidelines. And I will say that this really is meant as an effort to help out chapter officers, but you can always opt out and send them on your own. We're happy to send the evites out. It doesn't cost the chapter anything. The way it works is basically we send an initial invitation out to your list, and then they'll get 4 reminders every week, or sorry, 4 reminders, but at like a 1-week time frame. Unless they join, they won't get more spam, or if they opt out, we're not going to continue to email them. It is very helpful if an internal email is sent out in advance of those invitations going out. Rightly so, a lot of students wonder, is this a scam? Is this fraud? So just kind of having someone on campus, it could be a student vice president, could be a chapter officer, provost, a dean, just letting students know in advance, hey, be on the lookout, this is coming. We can also order printed invitations and handle all the postage free of charge to chapters if you go through the national office. So that would be another, you upload, and then from here we can go ahead and order those and they'll all be sent out. So you don't have to, lick envelopes and apply stamps. But again, you can always opt out if you prefer to do it on your own from your chapter. And then again, based on your FERPA status, which your email should kind of dictate, there will be chapters where the registrar or the chapter officers will have to send out their own invitations. And again, it's always an option for chapters to do as well. So a lot of times we rightly get the question, what does the Evite look like? It's actually one long email, but I cut it up here just so you could see it a little better. It's personalized for their first name. It gives some information about what Phi Kappa Phi is. And then the print invitation that goes in the mail, again, it'll be personalized with their name, with the school, and they will receive this in the mail. So I do want to talk about the Student Opportunity Fund, which you may have seen me mention in some chapter officer check-ins. And we will be sending out more information on this, but we are very aware that there are barriers to the cost of membership for students. And so we're rolling out this new program to really cover dues and fees for students who really would otherwise not be able to afford membership. So the way we're going to roll it out is that each chapter this spring will receive 2 memberships. And we're really letting the chapter officers decide which students will receive the awards. And again, we're leaving it up to you how you determine financial need, but you'll have 2 awards to give away to students. And we have more information that will be coming, but we know there's a lot that just went out to you today. So I want to give you a little bit of time to digest that. But we do want to let you know, we aim to, we have a director of development who's working to fundraise for this so we can, offer more than 2 per chapter. But we wanted to really pilot it this spring. So there'll be more information coming out about that. And again, Chip had mentioned it, but I just, wanted to mention that all certificates and pins will be mailed directly to students. And if you want any commemorative items to hand out to your inductees, we have a store, there's pins, there's different kind of folders, things you could get there. So, but all that is optional. And I'm going to hand it back over to Chip.
Thank you. All right, we'll talk about creating chapter visibility and a couple of best practices for that. So next slide, please. So this is really the question that we hope that you're asking is, how can you educate potential invitees about Phi Kappa Phi, right? What are the benefits of membership? Really answering the question, why should students become members of Phi Kappa Phi? And there are several ways that successful chapters have navigated this in the past, and you can see a few of them there. The tabling events, certainly very old school, but very effective. So doing that, planning those at the library or near like the food court or things like that, where you can, man it with student vice presidents. That's a great responsibility for them, and just talk to students about Phi Kappa Phi. And this is really well timed for the spring, right? If you can get this around like February, it's a perfect time to do it because invitations come out after that. And so students will recognize, right? They'll have that memory of Phi Kappa Phi, and once they get that invitation, then they will know it is legitimate and a great opportunity for them to join. So there's also digital ads. We're going to look at an example of that in a minute. And also some of the most successful chapters that I know, senior administrators will send out letters or emails to the eligible students, and talking about Phi Kappa Phi and engaging them and saying you should really consider joining. So that seems to be a big help in that way. So let's take a look at the next slide, please, Rebecca. So this is just some examples, right, of some displays, some beautiful displays that are put up, and they can either remain up all year, or you can just do them at certain times of the year, strategic times during the year. Talks about notable members, right? You can see the regalia in there. Maybe some things that are specific to the chapter itself. This is a great way to create that visibility. And obviously, once you set this up, it's there, right? You don't have to monitor it every single day. So these are great ways to do that. Okay, next slide, please. So here's some more of those displays. And then on the right there is one of the digital ads. I think it's a beautiful job with that. You can see that invitations arriving now. And so this is coordinated, right, with the invitation process, so that students walking by that and they have that name recognition, and then they receive the invitation, and it all coordinates in one hopefully beautiful moment for them to join. So but again, your displays, they don't have to be really large. These are nice smaller examples of such, and a great way to really create that visibility on campus. Okay, next slide, please. So we wanted you to know, if you don't know already, that we have a lot of help here in the national office for social media. And if you haven't seen our toolbox, this is available on our website, and all chapter officers have access to it. And you can go there and you can get in the toolbox and look around and see the things that are available to support you. And here's just a few for social media. And there's our colleague, Hope. She's wonderful, can help you set up a social media account for the chapter if that's what you'd like to do. This is also a great thing for student vice presidents. So if you have student vice presidents and you're looking for responsibilities for them, this would be a wonderful thing to do, is to manage that social media account. Okay, next, please. And here's a couple of the ads that we have. They're already created, which is just terrific. So these are available in the toolkit. There are fact sheets, there's information about the awards. So all this is already done. So if you go there, you can just simply download those things that are already created for you. You can also personalize them. So you can reach out to Hope and she can help you personalize it with the specific university or college name on there. And you can print them out and you can hand them out. They can work great at table displays and things like that. So I just wanted you to know that that is available and already created. So wouldn't be much time for you to go in there and get those. Okay, next, please. All right, Rebecca, back to you.
All right, so chapter officer support, that's available. Just a quick overview, I introduced everybody on the chapter relations team. We have two kind of general question emails you can use. Frankly, we all work very closely together. We all kind of help with each other. So really reach out to anybody or any email on this list and we'll definitely get back to you. And just, throughout the year, we offer, webinars, training sessions, specific things at convention. We do programs for our student leaders, student vice presidents. We have the Link online community, and we've been sending out the monthly chapter officer check-in emails where we try to just really condense everything you need to know for that month. And then we're always available, for one-on-one meetings as questions come up. So in the portal, this is our Link community. You can join the chapter officer group on Link. It's a good place to kind of exchange questions, ideas amongst each other. We do on the portal have our chapter officer toolkit. So a lot of these things that Chip was going over, logos, templates. We've got information about awards, social media. You can download bylaws. That's a really good place to kind of start, especially if you're a new officer. And again, we're always available to answer questions. And through that portal, you can set up your OEP, your online enrollment for fall and spring or both. You can look up members of your chapter. You can just search more widely for members that may not live near you but are still a part of your chapter. You can look and see kind of who's signing up, who is accepting the membership. And you can also update your chapter officer roster, as we mentioned before. So we can pause here for questions, or we can hand it over to Karen to kind of go over a little bit of the finance perspective. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, Karen, and let you take over.
Okay.
Yeah, let me just say really quickly, we live on Zoom. We love Zoom. We'd be happy to connect with you individually about your chapter at any point. You just send me an email, Rebecca, Chloe, Cami, all of us. We are ready to engage with you and talk to you about your specific chapter concerns. And we want to help. I mean, that's what we're here for. And we hope you'll reach out to us and we can schedule, we can do it in 30 minutes. I think it wouldn't be much of your time. So if you have any specific questions, please reach out to us and we're happy to connect.
Okay, I'll get started with a chapter finance overview. For those of you that don't know, I am Karen Steyer and I'm the Director of Finance and Controller at PKP. And this is a presentation that Brad Jewell, our CFO, and I put together for you guys just to get a feel for the overview of what managing your chapter's finances look like. Now, I don't know why. Maybe I need to. Okay, you're gonna have to bear with me because it's changing on one screen, but it's not changing on the other screen. Let's see.
I'm just catching up in the chat. And Aurora, yes, we will make the PowerPoint available, as we will also create a link to the recording. We'll be emailing all of that next week.
This, and maybe if I just drag this guy. Okay, so here is our finance department structure. We have Brad Jewell, who's on this call, as our CFO. I am handing over the reins actually on Monday as Director of Finance and Controller to Suzanne Borders, who's a wonderful person. And you guys can look forward to seeing her name come across your emails and your desks for anything finance related. We have Stephanie Ferguson, who is our accountant. You would probably see her name as it pertains to any sort of ACH direct deposit issues or invoices that we're billing your chapter for. And then we have Katie Childress, who is wonderful about helping your members if they're having issues with their join process, taking your payments if you can't get through on the online portal, anything like that. This is our group email, finance@phi-kappa-phi.org. That's always the easiest way to reach us. We all get that, and one of us will always respond to you if you have any questions as it pertains to finance. I'm going to kick it off with the finer print here. Chapter incorporation is not required, but it does give you some legal protections, and sometimes it's required of your bank for what certain types of accounts that you may want to set up. It's different in each state. You would just want to check on your state legal requirements on this. Insurance, the Honor Society does not provide insurance coverage for chapters or chapter officers. Sometimes your university can help you with this, but you are responsible for insuring your own property, activities, and volunteers. And there are laws that vary between universities, between states, so we're not able to give you firm advice on this, but again, generally speaking, your legal counsel on your university is typically a great resource for you guys on that. Tax exemption. So Rebecca and Chip mentioned that each chapter maintains its own 501c3 status. You have your own employer identification number with the IRS, and you are filing your own 990N with the IRS. You're exempted under our group blanket exemption, excuse me. And all you have to do to maintain your status as part of this group is to file that 990N annually. For anyone who has not filed this, it's a very, very simple form. It doesn't require any financial detail. As long as you take in under $50,000 in gross revenue, it's a check a box, contact name, address, and submit. It doesn't take maybe 5 minutes of your time, and we're always happy to help you with that. We pay for a service that makes this even easier for you. It's file990.org, and it's no cost for you guys to file through that program. So again, if you have any questions about how or any trouble filing, always feel free to email us at that finance@ email address. Membership dues are not tax deductible, but your donors are. If they make a donation directly to your chapter or to the national office, that is tax deductible. For it to be considered tax deductible, if they donate directly to your chapter, you have to maintain your tax exemption. So if you fail to file your 990 for 3 years, the IRS will revoke your exemption, and that's going to lead us to have to withdraw your charter. So it's not time consuming. It's a very simple process, but it is gravely important that you are filing this annually. It's also important to note that you are exempt from income tax under our group exemption, but you are still liable for sales and use tax in most states. This is another, you can confer with your counsel to see what the particular laws are in your state. Donor receipting. So if your members are donating to your chapter with their renewal dues or with any sort of payment that they're making through the national office, we are going to provide them with that IRS receipt language so that they can claim the deduction on their taxes. If a donation comes directly to your chapter and does not filter through the national office, your chapter is responsible for receiving and acknowledging those gifts in accordance with IRS. So for you, it looks like any single gift of $250 or more that comes directly to your chapter needs to be receipted. We do have a template available in the chapter toolkit, and we will post these PowerPoints with all of these links, but there's a great resource page on the IRS website for more information on that if you have questions. Funds management. So once your chapter is operational, you have really 3 options for how you hold your funds. You can choose your own local bank or credit union. Several chapters have a fund that's held within the university or foundation accounts. Or we at the national office do offer a funds management service. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second, but it's a program that we implemented to help take the administrative burden off of the chapter officers so that you guys can sort of focus on being engaged with the students and being the face of the organization for creating opportunities for these students. We do offer the ability for your payments from the national office to your chapter to be direct deposit or paper check. It's much easier on us if we're set up for direct deposit to your chapter. If you're still receiving paper checks, the process to get you set up on ACH is also very easy. So we are trying to move everyone towards that as they are able. Funds management services at the national office. So this is the program that basically takes the burden off of your treasurer, and where we will handle all of the work as it pertains to your treasury management. So there's a funds management agreement that we bind between the chapter and the national office. We would receive any residual chapter funds that you're holding and put them into a designated chapter fund bank account. It's segregated from our national office funds. And then as you're collecting revenues from dues, donations, or initiations, those are deposited directly into that chapter held account. If you wanted to purchase items for your initiation ceremony and you need us to pay a vendor or reimburse, if you want to just expense it and have a reimbursement, all of that is done by sending us a written notice, and we'll process payment back to the appropriate party. We reconcile the bank accounts monthly for this, and we send quarterly financial statements to these chapters. The fee for this is 2.5% of your fund balance, or a minimum of $250. And the chapter is still required to file that 990N, but they do not need to complete the annual financial report that we require at the end of every fiscal year. Okay, shifting gears to FERPA compliance. Chip and Rebecca touched on this a little bit, but in our new system, Nimble, which is a Salesforce base, it's a wonderful system that we've been able to create a lot of efficiencies in. You are uploading student information directly to the back end of our database as you're allowed under FERPA. So it depends on whether you're A, B, C, D, or E, as Rebecca and Chip pointed out earlier. But we just wanted to point out that we've done extensive research. We've worked very closely with the Department of Education. We've gone through a very thorough review with ACRO, the Collegiate Registrar's Office, and we've obtained legal opinions to make sure that every piece of this process is protecting student data and is working within the laws and constraints of FERPA. So we have, as Chip and Rebecca mentioned, done a lot of research on each of your universities to see what is defined as directory information, what can we get, and how can we invite the students at your institution. So you can always reach out to us, to the chapter development team, to the finance team, and we can support you with any questions that you have in getting your eligible students list, and what is considered directory information for your institution. Generating revenues. Rebecca and Chip also touched on this a little bit. In the finance world, we like to sort of bucket this into two separate concepts. So you are generating revenue from new members joining, and you are generating revenue as those members then renew in the future. For initiates, for new members joining, you have your chapter fee. So you have your initiation fee. You may choose to have a registration fee for that student to attend your ceremony, and you may choose to have a guest fee for that student to bring along their parents or friends to recognize that achievement. As they renew, they are paying your chapter annual fees. If you elect to have that, you can have lifetime chapter dues, and they're given the option to donate back to your chapter. Initiation fees are required of the members. They're not required to renew, as you all, I'm sure, know. And they are able to renew at national level and not chapter level. They're also able to donate directly to your chapter during that renewal process. So anything that we're collecting gets remitted back to you on a monthly basis. And I'm going to go into that in a couple slides from now. The other thing that Rebecca and Chip touched on that I just want to reiterate here is that we now have these coupon codes that are intended to discount the national fees. And this is a great use of your maybe your renewal dues funding, breaking that barrier for students who don't have the financial means to join your chapter. We see a lot of chapters utilize this with great success to encourage more students to be able to join. When the coupon is used, we bill at the end of the month. So you will get one invoice on the first of each month for anyone who used your chapter's coupon code the month prior, and then you've got 30 days to pay that back to National. Okay, so actual disbursement of funds. We issue monthly settlements for initiation fees, renewal dues, and donations. Chapters who are set up for ACH direct deposit are going to get all of those funds every month. For chapters who are set up for paper checks, we recognize that most of the time you're going to need your initiation related funds to put on your ceremony. So those funds from the initiation fees, registration for the ceremony, and guest fees for the ceremony are remitted monthly. Everything else for your renewal dues and your donations are held for a quarterly disbursement there. And we will typically send out an email letting you know these funds are being released and coming out to your chapter. In order for us to release your funds, this is new this year. We've kind of made some changes about just making sure that everyone is compliant with the bylaws and with our internal standards. So the chapter first needs to be active for us to release money back to it. If you are board voted inactive, we're going to hold your funds in escrow. The chapter needs to have a financial officer in place who's responsible for the fund. So we consider this a treasurer, a president, a secretary, and/or president-elect. Any of those positions qualify as someone who's eligible to manage your chapter's funds. The chapter needs to be current on their Form 990N. The chapter needs to be current on their annual finance report, which is our internal report. And if you're receiving paper checks, we don't want you to be holding any checks for over 90 days. If you've got invoices, they need to be paid before 90-day marks. If you fail on any of these metrics, we're going to shoot you an email and just say, hey, your chapter's funds are being held in escrow. We generally will tell you exactly why the first time, and then subsequent follow-up emails will be a little bit more vague and just say your chapter's funds are in escrow. If you need clarification, reach back out to us. But again, if you're getting those emails and you ever have questions, always feel free to respond, and we are happy to help you move in and out, or move out of escrow. There's no penalty. People kind of get alarmed when we tell them your funds are in escrow. There's no penalty. It's just a way for us to make sure that we're not sending money out and no one is there to receive it and steward it. So once you correct whatever it is that's flagging your chapter, we will immediately release any funds that we may have held while you were out of compliance. Okay, reporting to back up your monthly settlement. So again, your monthly settlements are going to come in two separate batches. One is the renewal batches that's going to include renewal dues, either annual or life, and your donations, and the other is your initiation related funds that includes initiation fees, registration, and guest attendance fees. We send an email when those funds have been reconciled and they're ready for disbursement. Typically, this has taken us around 2 to 3 weeks after the month closes. And then you're able now to log into the back end of the chapter portal and generate reports that back up to these statements. I am going to demo those reports in just a minute for you guys and show you where you should look in the chapter portal to find all this. I do want to just say right now that we are still in active development with the Nimble team to refine these reports. Particularly, we found that if a student cancels an order, it doesn't always show up the way that we want it to. So if you see a discrepancy, we need your feedback to tell us, hey, it looks like you settled out $20 to us, but my report shows only $10. Can you help me reconcile it? We are happy to send you our internal reconciliation. And by you reaching out to us, it helps us to refine this even more. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you see anything going on these reports. Remitting funds to national. So coupon codes is where we're primarily seeing this happen, but sometimes chapters are ordering, Franklin postcards or letterhead to have on hand. We are creating a bill and sending it to your chapter. I'm also going to walk you through where to see this in the chapter portal, but it's important to know that when we create an invoice, it's going to automatically generate an email, and that's going to go to the primary contact for your chapter. You'd be able to see, if you don't know who the primary contact for your chapter is, you can see this by searching your chapter in our directory, and that person who shows up in the directory is your primary contact. If you ever want to change that person to a different officer, feel free to reach out. The chapter relations team or the finance team, either one of us can help coordinate that for you. We send monthly notices to the finance officers, which again is considered treasurer, president, secretary, or president-elect. And then on these open invoices, you can make a payment directly through our website using a credit card, or you can mail a check or a credit card payment back to our office. If neither of those work for you, you can send us an email and we're happy to give you wire information to initiate a direct payment from your chapter to our bank account. This is just a little bit about what it looks like when you receive an invoice from us and what it looks like for this express payment. So there's always going to be a link on your invoice that takes you to an express payment. You don't have to be logged into the chapter portal to use that link. You can just go directly in and make your payment there. And I'm going to switch gears here and show you guys the chapter portal and what it looks like. I am working in our staging sandbox right now, and it's a little bit slow. So instead of clicking through and waiting on this to load, I'm just going to tab through. I've got it all open for you already. So when you log on to your portal, to your individual portal, this is what your snapshot is going to look like. And what I want you to see is this toolbar here on the left. The two areas that pertain to finance are the My Orders tab here and the My Chapters tab here. So my orders, when you click into this, it's going to show you your personal orders first. So any renewals that you have, any donations that you've made will show here. And if you keep going down, you'll see chapter orders. You can pay now, or you can view an order summary, which is just going to take you to that direct invoice here. So you see it's going to tell you the detail of what it is, the overview and the pricing. In case you need that for your records, you can always just download it directly from the portal. The other area that you want to look at, My Chapters. When you click through right here to My Chapters, this is the screen that you're going to get. It's going to tell you kind of the overview of your chapter and what your roles are within that chapter. And then you can click into the chapter portal from here. The chapter portal has lots of information that Rebecca and Chip have already mentioned. Here's your chapter officer role assignment, initiation information. For finance, we use this middle button here, the chapter report. When you come into the chapter report, you've got the option to look at 2 separate reports. These are designed to match your 2 separate settlements that we send out each month. So chapter contribution listing report is going to be your renewal dues and donations. Online initiate payment listing report is going to be your new member joins and any registration or guest fees that you might have. There is detailed information on how to pull these reports and how to read these reports in your chapter toolkit. But I just wanted to show you a quick example of this. So you can run this on any date range that you'd like to see. If you want to tie to your monthly settlements that we're sending you from the national office, you would run it on a calendar month. I'm going to run it because, again, I'm in staging and we don't have so many transactions in here. But what you're seeing is a column for chapter dues, a column for life dues. So this is your annual dues, this is your life dues, and then a column for chapter donations. This is that renewal flow report. It does not create a subtotal by column. The developers were not able to add that for us. But you can always export this to an Excel report and manipulate it there to add your subtotals in and tie it back to the settlements. The other report that's in here is your online initiate payment report. This report, you're going to see your chapter initiation fees, your attend fee, and your chapter guest fees. We are also in development with Nimble to add a quantity field here. I know some of you have elected to not charge an attendance fee or a guest fee, but you still want to know how many people are coming to your ceremony. So Nimble is actively working on adding that field here to this report. So you'll be able to see how many people have registered, even if you don't have a fee affiliated with that attendance or guest fee. Okay, and I know that was quick, but again, we do have all of this reporting documented. There's a video, there is step-by-step instructions, all of that's available to you in Chapter Toolkit and has probably landed in your email box in the past couple of months as well. Okay, the last thing that I want to walk through with you is just some kind of general financial controls and best practices for your chapter finances. Number one, you should use an established accounting software system for tracking your cash balances, revenues, and expense activity. Number two, you should have a segregation of duties. So you shouldn't have the same person who is writing and signing checks and depositing checks, also doing your bank rec. You want to keep 2 separate officers when at all possible. Safeguarding of assets. Whoops. We don't want you to have your bank log information on a sticky note on top of your desk. Keep all of that in a safe place. And run your transactions through a bank account that is in the chapter's name. You should not have any chapter transactions running through an individual bank account. And, you know, for any chapter that is doing ACH, we're able to see the bank accounts, and I don't think we have anyone in violation of this. But if your chapter is maybe a paper check or not set up this way, if you have a bank account in an individual's name and you need help setting it up, we're happy to walk you through that process. We've done it for several chapters, so don't hesitate to reach out to us there. Last under here, bank statements should be reconciled every month and reviewed by a member of the executive committee that is not performing the reconciliation. So again, segregation of duties here. We just want to make sure that you are stewarding your funds in the best way possible. Cash payments, consider requiring dual signatures on checks over a certain threshold. So this is really about what makes sense for your chapter and, you know, what kind of funds are available to you. But 250, 500, you might want to have the treasurer and the president sign those checks. Maintain on file receipts, invoices, and supporting documentation for all of your expenditures. And make sure that your checks are recorded into your accounting software. Don't write a paper check and say, oh, I'll put it in there in another month or two. Just keep track of that as you go. Chapter dues check should be deposited in the bank as soon as possible. So with our new Nimble platform, all of your chapter dues should be coming through our platform. But if for some reason you get chapter dues directly to your organization, same thing if you get a donation directly to your chapter, just make sure that you are depositing that. And any remittances that are coming from the national office to your chapter should be deposited as soon as possible. Annual reporting. So our chapter finance report is, we had a different deadline on it this year because of the migration into the new system, but on an annual basis, it's usually due by August 31st. If you were late on it, you have heard my spiel, my soapbox here. This is an internal report. It's not audited. We are trying to get a feel for the health of your chapters, and we're trying to create a paper trail in case there's a lapse in officer leadership and someone needs to know where are the funds held, what's going on with this chapter's finances. We have a paper trail to provide to the incoming officers. And then the last piece of reporting again is your 990 that we've already covered. And the last slide I have for you is just some additional resources that you can walk through. Again, this will all be saved to and distributed to you all. So you can click through these for any extra resources. That is the end of what I've got for you. I'm going to stop sharing and open it up to questions for either chapter relations or finance at this point.
Anybody can come off mute if you want. In the interest of giving people a few seconds to craft their questions, I did just want to mention those FERPA emails that went out a little before this meeting really should have, you know, extensive step-by-step instructions for your specific institution status. So give those a review. Definitely ask any, you know, questions that come up about that. It looks like the question came in about why certificates aren't sent directly to the chapters. Brad, did you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah, there have been a few questions about that, so I can try to address that. So the national office began doing that back in 2020 due to the pandemic because we couldn't have in-person ceremonies. And so we mailed out all the packets to students, and the response that we received from students and quite a few chapters was that they actually liked that method and they wanted it to be an option moving forward. And so we started making it available in 2021 with a cost associated with it because it is pretty expensive to mail the packets. Even at $8, this is a break even at best for the national office because we're mailing packets really around the world in some cases, and they're you know a little heavy in terms of weight for postage. But so we started offering as an option for students to pay, and what we experienced was that gradually Over the next 2 to 3 years, the majority of students preferred it to be mailed to their home. I think the data for 2023 showed that about 60 to 70% of students paid the $8 across the entire membership. They wanted it delivered to their home. We also heard from many chapter officers that we would get calls constantly about, we have a box of inventory here of pins and certificates. The student didn't come to the ceremony. We don't want this anymore. We're going to throw it away. We experienced a lot of inventory that was just thrown away. And I know even our executive director of the national office, he was a former chapter officer, and he would have tons of pins and certificates because students, not all students would show up for the ceremony. So the data supported us moving to that method. Now, we can never have 100%, approval of, how we should treat this going forward. I don't think in the new Nimble system that there is an option to choose one or the other. It's something that we can explore and have it available for students to decide what they want to do, whether they want it mailed to their home or sent to the chapter. But I just wanted to provide you with some background around why we decided to do it that way. Again, the majority of students that's what they wanted. They sort of spoke out. And so that's why we went in that direction. In terms of the amount of the fee, again, we're not making any money on that fee. In fact, we lose a little bit of money on the postage. Postage, as you know, continues to go up and increase in cost. But so, our takeaway here is that we will explore that with the Nimble team and internally to see if we can create an option for students to decide what they want to do. And, we can get back with the group on that.
Thanks, Brad. There's another question about can we set the dates of the 5 invitation emails that go out? I would say you can definitely work with Cami on our team to get it set up when you would like. It will still go out kind of once a week for 5 whole weeks, but you can certainly kind of plan that start date. So you can definitely just kind of like work with Cami to get it going according to your schedule.
Thank you so much for that. I just find that, as I think we can all relate, students tend to wait to the last minute to do stuff, and when they see last chance, things like that, it kind of puts an urgency behind them, and we can get more memberships if we kind of use that strategy or take advantage of it. So yeah, it would be great if at least right before the ceremony, we could send a last moment one. I just see a lot of our students respond to that. So thank you so much for that.
Sure. Yeah. And I will say, I think the emails get more kind of like as you hit number 5, it's not the same one every time. It is sort of like, time's running out, even though technically they can accept up until June 30th. For those of you who may have opened enrollment and started inviting students in the fall for the spring, and they've already gone through that series of 5, we are going to send out another campaign in the net. I think it'll start in early February, just trying to kind of get back on students' radars, give them another chance. So definitely makes sense. And then you could always send one as well, or you or another chapter officer internally, just as a reminder. So
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah. Anyone else? Feel free if you want to just come off mute. Okay, well, that was a lot of information. So thank you all for sitting through that and for listening. When the recording is ready, we will post it in the training archives. We're here to help. So don't hesitate to be in touch.
Thank you
Thank you
so much
all.
again. We appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate all of you. Bye.
Thank you.